Good evening. How are you? Jules Wyman here from juleswyman.com, and as ever, distracted, but because I'm checking that this is actually working and not because I'm ignoring you. Honest, I promise. So Facebook's not making it easy for me to find. Why is it not making it easy for me to find my own post? There we go. Look at that. So it's going to take probably, I don't know, around about a minute or so. In fact, doing it on there, I've just realised that I haven't shared it, and I would like to. So I'm just going to go on and find it again. I'll do it on here because that'll make it easier. And just share with people to give them the opportunity to join if they want to. It's always a joy when things don't go to plan. Let me just grab that. Okay, so I am back with you. Is there anybody here live? Yes, there is somebody here live. Good evening, whoever that is watching live. It's lovely to have you here. Do drop down and say hi, because it's always great to give people a shout out. Sorry, I'm wobbling my computer. Stop fiddling. So, how's things with you? How's your day been? I can't quite believe it's 7 o'clock. I've pretty much been sat in this chair since 8 o'clock this morning. Got up and had a walk about the house, but that's it. I haven't actually left the house today, which is not a good move and not something I would advise other people to do. The day has gone by extremely quickly. So I am going to get up and probably put on some dance tracks, say sorry to the neighbours, and have a little dance before I sit down and do the last bits that I want to do this evening, which is read and continue with a bit of painting. But anyway, enough about me. How are you? How are things going for you? Do drop down and say hi. I am just going to do that because I don't mind you looking at the people that are my ancestors. However, I can point to those, all of my ancestors, because none of those are alive anymore, unfortunately. I don't mind you looking at those, but I always feel it's a bit funny if I've got other people's photos behind me and I haven't got their permission, basically. So yes, that's why I just did a quick move. Anyway, you can get to see different things up on the thing behind me. So this evening, there's a few things that I want to share with you actually this evening, and one of which is around, good evening, Emily Jane. How are you, my lovely? One of them is around, it's to do with this video that you may or may not have seen that I did post on Facebook a little while ago on the page. And if you're watching on YouTube, then I will endeavour to go back in and put it on YouTube as well. Now, I'm not saying go and watch this video right now, but definitely have a look at this video afterwards. And the reason I don't watch TV anymore, I got rid of my TV in July. Extremely glad that I did. It's taken me a while to adjust, but I would highly recommend it. All the better for being here, Emily. Oh, bless you. I would highly recommend getting rid of your TV or limiting the amount of time that you watch TV. It's opening up my life. It's been something I honestly have been addicted to from a very young age. It's taken me a while to find other things that I can do and enjoy spending my time doing, but I am. But because of that, that means that when there are some good programs on television, such as Educating, I think it's This Time's Greater Manchester, I haven't seen things. Now, Educating, and it was Yorkshire, I think was the original one, and then they've done Educating Essex, and I think they've done Manchester a couple of times. I could be wrong. If you don't know the programme, it's basically they've got cameras in schools and they do it over a year, I think, and then obviously take from that different storylines and share those. And the particular story that's on the video that I've put in the link below is about a little lad who I think is about 11, who has just been diagnosed with dyslexia. And therefore his way of dealing with that, and he's not initially dealing with it. So the head teacher, excuse me, I have a hair. still have a hair. The head teacher takes him into his office to have a chat with him, tell him, see how he's doing, how he's coping with it, etc., etc. Good evening, those of you that are joining live. Do drop down and say hi. Join Emily and myself in the conversation. And yeah, he basically, the head teacher owns up to the little boy that he's actually dyslexic. And how he has seen it as a gift. And I haven't read the book, but I believe there is a book called The Gift of Dyslexia, which if I've got the title right, I know it's something like that. A number of my friends who have had children that are dyslexic, I know, have read that and have found it extremely useful. And I've heard a lot of people who have dyslexia, famous or otherwise, talk about the gift that it brings, as this headmaster states, because it gives you the opportunity to see the world in a different way. And I think, and the reason that I wanted to talk about that this evening was because one thing that I'm noticing, and possibly even more so now than I don't know whether I'm just noticing it more, or I'm hearing it more, whether it's coming up in conversation more. Hey Jackie, how are you doing? And it's the comparison side of things, how people are constantly comparing themselves to other people and expecting themselves to be as good as so-and-so, and I think that my viewpoint is that the education system pushes us into that. It kind of provides an environment for us to be cookie cutters, or cookie cuttered, if that's the right word, molded, uniformed, quite literally. And I really think, and I'm talking in generalized statements here, I know that there are amazing teachers. I wouldn't be where I am and who I am if it wasn't for some of the amazing teachers that I had in my life. And I also recognize there's people at the other side of the spectrum that aren't great teachers. But the sweeping generalization is that, for me, is that the education system as it stands currently, the majority of the time, pigeonholes us a lot. And I think we forget, or even if we ever do start to recognize our own talents, our own gifts. Now, I spent a great deal, and I'd love to know your thoughts on this. I'd love to know if you have, these are the things I think it would be lovely, even if you don't know, or if you do know if the teacher is alive, name the teacher. I'm going to put mine there. I'm going to put there's two actually that spring to my mind. Name the teachers that made a difference in your life. So for me, there were two specifically. Thank you for the likes. Thank you for the shares. Much appreciated. There were two specifically, a lot of them in different ways, but Mrs. Stevens was my drama teacher, Trish. And I spent a lot of time with that lady, and she had a great deal of patience and recognized my passion for theatre and really encouraged me and nurtured me in that way, especially when I gave up on myself. There we go, lovely. Mrs. Brown and Miss Ellison. I love that. I love that. Bring them on. Let's name the teachers, even if the teachers never know. We can just send our ethereal love, our virtual love to them. And Mr. Adkins is who I want to talk about this evening. Now, I didn't particularly, in all honesty, like Mr. Adkins very much. I think he was a bit, I suppose I would have classed him as a bit too square for my liking. He certainly wasn't a cool teacher, and we did have a few cool teachers at my school. Most of the teachers at my school were really quite young. I think most of them were under 30. Good evening, Rob, or certainly not much older than 45, which is very, very young, isn't it? Isn't it? It is, isn't it? Please tell me it is. I'm joking. But Mr. Adkins, so from a very young age, I was told by family, friends, not my peers, but friends of the family, and teachers. Good evening, Chris. You talk too much. Constantly, 2 fingers, or sit on your hands. And even my mum used to call me her little chatterbox. And then, of course, in the school environment, that's wrong. That's not what they want you to do. Because they want you to shut up and listen. And don't get me wrong, there are appropriate times to be talking, and there are appropriate times to shut up and listen. And I needed to learn that art. I needed to learn that skill. But Mr. Adkins, your IC teacher, was an alcoholic. He used to have whiskey in a flask of coffee. You could smell it on his breath when he came near you. So that's great that we know that, Rob, but that's not the point of the conversation. What I'd love to know is the teachers that made a difference in your life. I think pretty much most of us had a teacher that unfortunately had a relationship with alcohol that wasn't conducive to the school environment. But let's keep the love going in. Let's not get into bad mouthing anyone. Let's keep the love. Those teachers who made a difference. So I've spent a lot of time being told to shut up, and I did need to learn the art of when it was appropriate to talk and when it was appropriate to listen, and how to use that. But Mr. Adkins saw something in my gobshitiness, and he pulled myself and Emma Deer and Lisa East to one side and invited us all. Good evening to those of you that are joining live, by the way. Invited us, the three of us, to be part of a debate competition. Now, bearing in mind, we didn't have a debate club at school. I didn't even know what debating was, and I can't even remember what we did, to be fair. But I do remember, and this probably wouldn't be allowed these days, but I do remember him driving us somewhere, the three of us, 3 teenage girls, in his car, somewhere to take part in a competition. And don't worry, this isn't one of those stories where something happened, because it didn't. He was a lovely teacher, even though he was a bit square. But what he saw and Lisa, Emma and I were very, very different. So Emma was the smart one. Lisa was the smart one as well, to be honest. I didn't perceive myself as smart at all. I just perceived myself as the annoying gobshite who would just rattle on. Hey, Debs. And I think at that time, probably people thought I had confidence because I would do stuff like that. But I couldn't have been further out of my comfort zone, especially when I was stood alongside 2 people who I perceived were so much smarter than myself. So why am I telling you this? Because I think that we all have a talent. We all have gifts. Now, I'm blessed that the gift of talking, which I have learned the art of when to talk and when to shut up and when to listen, still learning, still developing. But nonetheless, for those of you that are just joining, by the way, do drop down and join Emily, Jackie, Rob, Chris and Debs and say hi. Cheers. And share the names of any teachers that made a difference in your life, that had a positive impact on your life. So Mr. Adkins saw that he could utilize that skill of talking, and was offering me a way of taking it further. I can't actually remember how we got in the competition, what happened after that, why we didn't continue it, but I don't really remember following it much further than that. Mr. Williams, had to go and look it up as I couldn't remember. Yeah, I'm one of these weird people. I could tell you pretty much every teacher, right the way from my very first teacher, Mrs. Staines, right the way through school, and the other teachers within the school that I wasn't even taught by. I don't know why I can remember things like that, but I do. And now I get paid for talking. I know, right? It's the thing that I was told to stop doing as a child, I now get paid to do. And just like this head teacher is telling this young lad that dyslexia is a gift, I think that very often, because when we don't fit in, because those gifts aren't, you can't cookie cutter us, and Mr. Collins too, loving this love, but carry on with the love, bring on the love for the teachers. But I think that we there are going to be people who are academically minded, and that's awesome. There's absolutely people who are going to fly at school and love, I don't mean literally, unless it's a flying school, but they're going to love that environment, and that's going to really, light them up and bring out the best in them. And then there's going to be other people where that's a tough environment for them to be in, to sit still, the lights, the way things are taught, the structure, whether it's, all the variety of neurodiversity, that the conversations around that now, whether they're on the spectrum in some way or whether they have something else, a mental health issue in a different way. Miss Westerby was my first school reception class. And I think when we're a kid, we want to fit in. We don't want to be different, which is what this little boy says. I don't want to be different. But actually, when we can all recognize that that's our uniqueness, that's our gift, is our uniqueness. And I think that there are times when that uniqueness, those gifts they can be ways that you earn money. That could be the way that you earn your living. But equally, it just could be something that brings you joy, and that you're able to do for yourself or share with family or friends. It doesn't have to be the way that you earn money. But what I would encourage you to do is start to recognize that and give yourself the opportunity to see that for you. And that's what I wanted to share with you this evening, because people talk about equality, and a lot of people talk about the fact that they want equality. They want people to be, they want equality to exist. And yet, very often they don't treat themselves with the same level of equalness. They don't perceive themselves as being on the same level. Everyone else is equal, but not me, which is just bizarre, really. So my invitation to you this week is, and I'd love to know your thoughts. I'd love to know your thoughts on this. Can you easily see your gift, what you bring? So I know those of you that I know on here, that I've spent time with, I can't literally just go, boom, that's so-and-so's gift, but I know you all have gifts. I know you do, because the conversations that we've had one-to-one. So do you know what your gift is? If you do and you're happy to share, put it in the box below. If you know it and you don't want to share it, just say yes. But if you do, then yeah, put it in the comments below. Do you know what your gift is? Yes. And if you're happy to share what you think it is, then please do share it. And it may be something like dyslexia or Asperger's or autism or whatever it may be. Because I think, the more we can recognize that we all see the world differently, and that's our uniqueness, and that we can utilize that to be of service for ourselves, to be of service for others, to be of service for the greater good, whatever it may be, then that's a possibility. And I would just love to hear. I'd love to know what your thoughts are. And yeah, I'd love to know what your thoughts are. There's a great book which made a big difference to me around this. Well, there was two books that I was thinking about actually when I was thinking about this evening. One, I've mentioned him before, Sir Ken Robinson. If you go and have a look on TED Talks and put in Ken Robinson and what he talks around education, love that. I love that, Jackie. So sensitivity helps me be empathetic in my job, and oh my gosh, do you need it in the job that you do? That's so beautiful. And Sir Ken Robinson talks about education and creativity and bringing out our own uniqueness. And he wrote a book called The Element, which is, always told I was oversensitive. Yeah. So it's interesting, isn't it, how these things that actually, maybe it's because they're so different from the tribe that we're involved with. Sorry, I set the dishwasher off without forgetting that I was doing this evening, so that's the noise you can hear in the background. But quite often maybe it's because we don't fit in the tribe so much, the family tribe, And that's where we get told that those things are I'm going to say wrong, but it's that they don't fit in, so don't do them, don't stand out. But in Ken Robinson's book, The Element, he talks about all the different types of intelligences, and rather than it just being about intellect, he talks about it from music perspective and languages and science and creativity and all sorts. And it gave me such a great insight into all the different ways I have of being intelligent, or what would be deemed as intelligent. So yeah, that is my invitation to you this week, is to recognize your own gift, celebrate it, even if it's just for you. Celebrate it for you. It doesn't have to be advertised across social media, but if you do something and you want to tag me in it, then feel free to. But yeah, recognize your own gift and recognize your own uniqueness, and share that with the world in whatever way that shows up, whether that is work or whether that is just how you show up as a person, then do. And yeah, not recognized as valuable. We need to honor our individual traits. Absolutely, Jackie, totally believe that and agree with that. So I hope that you have found this evening helpful. I can't remember what Emily said at the beginning. What did you say at the beginning, Emma? All the better for being here, thanks. That's really sweet, actually, because whenever I used to say to my granddad, hey, granddad, how you doing? And he'd say, all the better for seeing you. So that's him there. Can I point to him? Yeah, there, that one. Well, actually, there's all my granddads there. My granddad, my great granddad, and my granddad, all of whom were alive up until, well, the first two actually passed away when I was about 4, and the other one only passed away in September. So anyway, I'm waffling. I'm sure you're used to that by now. Thank you for joining me this evening. Do let me know if you have any insights, any questions. You can message me direct. And just to let you know, I'm going to give you a heads up now. Unless there are some topics that come in for these, then these will probably drop down to being maybe twice a month or even once a month, because the topics have petered off. Your questions and your requests have petered off quite significantly. So I'm going to drop them probably from the new year to once a month, unless there's a whole heap of questions and topics that come up. So yes, if you have any questions or topics that you would like to bring to the table, then please do. Send me an email, jules@juleswyman.com, or you can message me direct on here. And I look forward to catching up with you next week. Take care, and I shall speak to you soon. Bye now.